Welcome back. Next up in our second Ask a Pro segment, we're going to be talking to Mike at Brilliance Computer Technologies about viruses. Welcome back, everyone, and we are here again at Brilliance Computer Technologies on Kempt Road. This time we're talking to Mike, and for those who weren't watching last time, do you want to give a little bit of an introduction to what you guys do here at your store?
Absolutely. Well, we're Brilliance Computer Technologies, and we basically do a little bit of everything related to computers. We do custom builds, build gaming machines, we fix a lot of computers, we sell peripherals, cables, a little bit of everything. We've been doing it for about 20 years.
Awesome. Now, today we're going to talk about viruses. So first and foremost, why don't you explain exactly what a virus is?
It gets kind of complicated because people kind of group viruses together with other kind of malicious software, but viruses themselves are essentially code when executed kind of replicates and causes harm on your computer. And that kind of differs between other programs, malicious software, that get grouped together as viruses, like Trojans and spyware. A lot of people just call spyware viruses, Trojans viruses, worms virus, but they all kind of do different things, but they all have the same kind of effect for the most part. They damage your computer or networks or bandwidth.
Okay. Now, where do those types of things come from?
Viruses, all those programs are just basically designed by people. Viruses originated, back in the 90s. I think some of the worst ones were done by, students in universities that wanted to show that, antivirus companies, didn't have the best software out there and that they could kind of get through. I remember back in '98, I think it was, a student in Asia created the Chernobyl virus, which is a real damaging. He just put it out there, and it was originally kind of released on the network on the school, and it fried the BIOS, really overwrit the BIOS on the motherboard, so it just rendered computers useless. Now, viruses generally don't, say, cause physical harm to the computer. Usually it's just deleting files or whatnot, but this particular virus was pretty nasty, and I think 60 million users worldwide.
Wow.
So we were like replacing BIOS chips and all this kind of stuff. And then I remember another nasty one was the love letter virus.
I've heard about that.
And that was sent through email saying like I love you, and people would double click it, and then it would go through all your pictures and just write over your pictures and delete all your pictures.
Wow.
And it was pretty devastating.
So they don't really have a purpose then, it's just someone kind of
it's
being not the nicest.
Yeah, it's like mostly notoriety. People, especially you get really young, smart kids, and they just wanted to get their name out there, get their virus out there, and that's how it originated. Now, of course, it's all about money. People make viruses and malware, in particular, just to scam for profit. So it's kind of changed for sure. I think a lot of the top virus creators got hired by like Norton and maybe Kaspersky Labs and all these other companies because they were so good at creating viruses. They got hired on to combat the viruses.
I see. Crazy.
It's a crazy world out there.
So what would you say is the most common way that someone's computer might become infected with one of these viruses or malware?
Yeah, well, for instance, if you look at a worm, worms can be quite devastating, and they have a very similar effect to a virus, whereas they do replicate, but they can actually self-replicate, whereas a virus has to be double-clicked. So to actually get a virus, you can have a virus on your computer, but it won't do anything until a human has to double-click the executable file. It could be a little game you downloaded, it could be like a little program, but it actually has to be physically executed before it's going to damage the computer. Whereas a worm, it can come through a similar way through email, but once it's on your computer, it can actually self-replicate. And the most common one recently was, gets on your email address book and send itself to, everyone on your address book, and then everyone else that receives it will send everyone to their address book. So it can be quite devastating very quickly. What they do can be, sometimes they do nothing. They just kind of do little malicious stuff. You just kind of maybe change some icons around, but often they can just delete files, delete folders. They can rename things. That you can get these crypto lockers that will actually, basically hold data ransom, so they can be pretty devastating. Worms in particular, because they can tunnel through networks, they can really kill the bandwidth on a network, very quickly.
Okay.
And then you have Trojans, which are kind of grouped together, with the viruses, but they're not. They're different as well. They're They're not self-replicating or replicating at all, but they're a program that kind of, it's like the mythical Trojan horse that looks really pretty, so people will be presented with a piece of software that looks really sharp, and hey, this looks cool, and it looks free, and I'm going to try it, and they run it, and the Trojan gets on there, and what it does, well, just depending on the creator of the Trojan, sometimes it can just rename files, sometimes it'll just change some desktop icons. But often, you can get a back door, and then people can come in and steal information, personal information, credit card files. So
that can get really dangerous.
It can be really dangerous. Yeah.
I didn't realize that the name of the Trojan virus was from like the myth of the Trojan horse.
Yeah.
That's, totally makes sense. But
it does make sense,
cool.
and I didn't know it until recently myself. But yeah, it does totally make sense.
Yeah. So some of these viruses, they seem to be like pretty obvious that they're there, but some of them also, the ones that you say just move around icons, aren't quite as noticeable. So if you've got something like that on your computer, like what's a good way to find out if there's something, like if you've got some sort of infection there?
Yeah, it's tricky because sometimes you can have, like you said, sometimes you can have a virus and it really doesn't do much, so it can just sit there in the background idle and you won't even know you have a virus. But it can be doing, some damaging stuff, or it can just be sending some information to the controller, whoever controlled the virus or made the virus. But often you'll get things like, the computer will bog down. It'll get slower. Weird things might happen. You might get, crashes. You might get a reboot. Just kind of odd stuff. You might see your activity light on your hard drive just going do-do-do-do-do. And at that point, you should start running your programs. If you have like an antivirus program, that's the first thing you want to do is update it. A lot of people have an antivirus program, they let it expire, and then they get a virus and they try to run it, and it's useless because an antivirus program has to be updated with the most latest definitions to combat the latest virus out there.
Right.
If a virus is created last week and your definitions are 3 months old, then it's going to be useless when you try to scan for it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when you have a virus, by the time you actually try to run it, some of the programs out there, even spyware, will disable your virus protection software, so you have to come see us. So
what you're telling me is I should stop clicking ignore when an antivirus is telling me it's time to update?
Always update, yeah.
Okay.
The most important thing
Good
to try to prevent yourself from getting viruses or any sort of malicious software, you got to make sure your Windows is completely up to date. Mm-hmm. You have to make sure that your antivirus software is completely up to date, and you really should be behind some sort of firewall.
Okay.
Most people are anyways. A lot of people don't even know what a firewall is, but there's hardware-based firewalls and software-based firewalls. A hardware-based is a router. So pretty much anyone with a wireless router or any sort of router, that's a hardware-based firewall. Software-based firewalls are, they're built into Windows, but also you can buy them with products like Kaspersky Internet Security Suite or Norton 360 will have a software-based firewall program built into as well. And between those will just stop kind of wanted attacks. So those kind of programs and hardware-based will just stop these people just trying to intrude on your computer. They're not bulletproof, but they'll help.
That'll help.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what you would recommend then. So if someone comes in to you guys, let's say, with something going on their computer and you're looking for viruses, what would be the first things that you would want to implement when and or if you could get those sort of cleaned up? Yeah,
and viruses is again such a general term, but they're generally the majority of the machines that come in here have Trojan horses.
Okay.
Viruses probably represent maybe 16%, 15% of the machines that come in here. A lot of them will have spyware, which is really bad these days, and Trojan horses, which are really bad. They're probably the worst. And Trojan horses would be spyware is probably, a lot of people have seen those fake alerts where you get this little pop-up on your computer and they'll do this fake scan saying they've got 1 billion infected files, mm-hmm. and your computer's about to blow up unless you buy this program. Well, you buy the program and it's a piece of spyware itself. It doesn't fix the problem. It might hide it for a month and then you're back to the same problem where it's going to ask for $59.95 again, and
right.
it'll just never go away. But when someone comes in with a computer and it's acting you up, we have a multitude of programs we run because we find that just running there's no one program that will combat everything. And you can't say run one program and be satisfied that it's actually clean. So for us to run a full scan, we'll run sometimes 6, 10 different programs to make sure a computer's actually clean.
Right.
Because you're combating Trojans, viruses and malware and spyware and different variants of spyware, and different programs will pick up. You can run the spyware cleaner on pretty much any machine. It'll find something.
Yeah.
What it finds often is just tracking cookies and stuff, which isn't a big deal. But often it can find some damaging little programs.
So how do you get tracking cookies? Is that off of browsing the internet?
I usually get them when from Cookie Monster. Tracking cookies. Tracking cookies is basically when you go to a website and you just log in or put some information or you click on certain stuff. Essentially, a little text file gets saved on your computer. So if you go back to that website, some of the information that you've already previously clicked on would be automatic.
Okay.
And it's not really a bad thing. It's just that people don't want say corporate people putting information on their hard drive to possibly sell them something. It's an intrusion.
Okay.
But as for damaging software, it isn't really damaging. It's
okay.
it's just more.
It's like
tracking.
the lesser of all the evils.
It's the lesser of all the evils, and a lot of people, it's beneficial, to a lot of people because it's kind of handy, it speeds up processes. But at the end of the day, it is intrusion. So usually, when you run like a malware cleaner, it'll always show you the cookies, and you can decide if you want to delete them or not. I always delete them, but you don't have to.
I've been told to clean up my cookies, but I don't know. I actually don't know how to do it, so I just usually don't.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I need to bring my computer in to be cleaned.
Yeah,
I'm gonna, by the sounds of it, I probably have clicked a couple things that I shouldn't have.
Well, unless you're getting forced pop-ups, advertisements kind of shooting in the face that you didn't what's that all about, programs trying to sell you something, machine, all of a sudden running really slow, you're probably fine.
Okay.
And for yourself, like most people, we tell people all the time, what to run to make sure that their machines are fine. But a lot of people don't. You just think, oh, I'll run it later. Malwarebytes. There's a lot of free programs out there that can to help you, combat this stuff for no charge. Malwarebytes is an excellent spyware cleaner, and there's a free version. You can download it. The key with the free versions on all these programs generally is you have to manually update them. So when you download Malwarebytes, a free version, you actually have to double-click it, update it, and then you run it. The professional version updates itself. And there's also real-time scanners. Yeah, these are a couple products that people like.
Okay.
I don't use either one of these products, but I guess I'm kind of a techie guy, so I can battle, viruses and problems when I have it. But Kaspersky Internet Security Suite is probably one of our more favorite products. But I mean that and Norton 360, the same product. They both have the firewall. They both have some sort of spyware cleaning program, virus cleaning program, all built in there. So as long as you have one of these kind of programs on your computer up to date, they'll definitely help you out. I personally run a free version of Avast antivirus software. And Avast, it's been out for probably 15 years or something like that. A lot of people use ABG as well. I used that for years. Both those programs have professional programs that you can buy, and they also have the free version. The free versions work excellent. So if I have a problem, the first thing I do is run Avast, and then I'll run the Avast boot time scan, which scans a whole computer before it actually hits Windows. That's beneficial because sometimes when you have viruses attached to Windows-based files, you can't clean them in Windows. So if you run the boot time scan, it can clean it before it actually gets into the program. But I'll run that with, say, Malwarebytes. And I'll run Malwarebytes a couple times a month.
So this would be in addition to having one of those sort of products on your computer as well?
Not really. One of those products is essentially those two products combined. I just find some of those products are also heavy on the computer too. So I mean, if you have lots of memory and fast CPU, then you don't really mind it. For a lot of people that don't have a lot of memory, and their computer's a little older, some of these products you put on your machine, they do slow them down, even though they are protecting you. For computer users or gamers, it can be kind of annoying.
Okay.
So for people that are more familiar with how to combat viruses and malware, they prefer to run the programs as they need to run them, not have them running in the background all the time.
So it might be smart for anyone who's interested in looking into getting one of these things to maybe come in and sort of just let you guys know what their usages are, and then you could probably recommend a really good type of spyware protector. What's it called again? Antivirus.
Yeah, absolutely. And for every machine that comes in here, we always put the free version of Avast when it leaves, no matter what. Often people, we register it, so it's good for a year. And then at that point, if they want to buy it, you can buy it. If you want to download it for free again, you can always download it for free again. There's a great website called filehippo.com, and it always has the updated version, at least for the last 10 years plus, of AVG and Avast, and usually a couple other ones like Vera antivirus programs, and also a slew of spyware combating programs, like Spybot Search and Destroy is another excellent program. They have a free version and a pro version.
And that'd be a site that you would trust to send people to? Okay,
yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So do you have a couple tips that you could give to people other than these sort of things on how to try and prevent the acquiring of viruses on their
Absolutely.
computer?
Yeah, probably the biggest mistake people make is, opening executable emails. And, often you'll get an email and it'll be from someone that you recognize or know, and it'll be something silly like, hey, check out this super funny video of me. And people are like, I want to see this really funny video. Who doesn't, right? Click, and you're done, right?
Okay.
Well, if you get something like that, you're not sure, first thing you do is email the person back, say, hey, did you send me this video? And they'll be like, oh yeah, it's super funny. It's me jumping skydiving.
Okay.
Or it'll be like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And then you know it's a virus. With viruses in particular, they're executable. They have to be executed by the person. So you really got to be, when you're double clicking on anything that you're not sure of, be careful. As for general surfing practices, if you're gonna, a lot of people are into torrenting.
Yeah.
And
I'm very guilty for that.
yeah, me too. I torrent everything, and no, I don't. I mean, that's bad, right? No.
Secret's safe with me.
Yeah, but torrenting's great, but with the torrenting, you need some sort of a bit client, and I use uTorrent, and a lot of people use uTorrent. It's probably one of the more popular ones. But when you install it, it's going to, if you're just clicking next without reading it, it has these little boxes already checked off that are installing spyware on your computer.
Oh.
So when you install it, you want to say decline and uncheck everything it's trying to put on your computer. That's a very common way for people to get, say, spyware. And then with spyware, it gets kind of confusing because then you have different kind of grades of spyware. There's adware, there is Trojans, there's security issues with spyware. I mean, probably the most common spyware that was really bad is a keylogger program that can be put on your computer. And keyloggers can be nasty because they can actually see your keystrokes, and then you can get your banking information and personal data and that kind of stuff. Adware really, isn't that bad. It's just, it's forced advertisement. And often you can get adware from free programs.
Okay.
And if you want to pay for the program, then the adware goes away. So it's not as bad, but again, who wants things popping up in your face?
Not me.
And sometimes you just get, the old classic porn pop up in your face. Well, how did I get that? I wasn't
I
on that
didn't do
site.
it, yeah.
Those you really need to run usually cleaners and stuff to get rid of. And spyware is not like a worm can kind of transfer and move through networks on its own. Spyware, when it's on your computer, it's on your computer. It doesn't travel through networks and stuff like that. It's just on the host computer, and it's just kind of, sometimes it can just bog it down so you can't even use it. I remember years ago we used to get these, some nasty spyware, and you just turn on the computer and you get like 1,000 pages popping up in your face.
Awesome.
So as soon as you click it down, another 500 pop up. To combat these programs, you can't run, say, a spyware cleaner when this is happening, obviously, but in Windows, but you just boot it into safe mode. And when you're in safe mode, you can obviously combat these programs a lot easier.
So definitely be careful what you're clicking out there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mike. This has been great. Do you want to plug the store to our viewers?
Yeah, well, Brilliance Computers, we've been in business for 20 years. It's a family-operated business. We love what we do, and we love to help you. And we, do a little bit of everything. We do a lot of service. We do networking on sites. A lot of new builds, a lot of used PCs, whatever you need.
Address is
3700 Kemp Road.
3700 Kemp Road.
Brillcom.com is the website.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
No problem.
That wraps up another episode of Tech Up. Make sure you visit us on Facebook and Twitter. Let us know what you think and leave some suggestions for our recap segment. I'm Sarah Ingram, and I'll see you next time.